Hello, welcome to another weekly recap of Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. We had such a great week with the words GAYNJAY, we had DAAGAY, we had KEBA, GARAHAN, and OUNCHAL. So let's catch up with Vinay of the Cutlass magazine for this weekly recap. So this is the star.
Right, they're doing it like this, right? The mashing up so.
I'm Karen Das.
And I'm Vinay Harrichan.
Okay, so Vinay, we had another fantastic week. What were your thoughts about the words and the contributions this week?
I was definitely very happy with the level of engagement, and I noticed a lot of people commenting. Some people had different answers for the same word, and that's always the best part about doing this series.
Yes, the interaction, and that's how we expand the vocabulary as well. So let's get started with this past week's word, Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. We kicked off the week with GENJAY. Some said GENJAY, some knew it as GAYNJAY, or Udit in Fiji says Ganjo or Gunjo, GAYNJAY or GAYNJAY. So GAYNJAY. Now, growing up, this is how I would, and I still use the word like this, like if you were to gather up something, but in an untidy way. So if I were to pull the curtains aside and it's not very neat, I would get buff for that because I GAYNJAY it up. Or if I pull the sheets and it's very untidy, I would GAYNJAY it up. But then I got messages like if you were to squeeze up something or somebody and you squeeze them up right, like a lot, you GAYNJAY them up. And then I got messages from people making reference to if a lot of people try to squeeze into a space, be it on a bench or in a car, they GAYNJAY up.
Yes, and the context that I hit it in was when they say like you GAYNJAY the baby, and the context is when you like squeeze up the baby or hug them up or squeeze up their cheeks and stuff like that. So it seems to be that the kind of resounding element in all of those different contexts to bundle something together, squeeze it together, mix it together, and so that would be the meaning for GENJAY or GAYNJAY, as some people.
Right. Yes. So Banu Jaipal says GENJAY means squeeze in Bhojpuri. Gin means count in Punjabi. Thank you, Banu. And yes, Sudhir also used the word GENJAY and to clutch or to compress. Or you can also use it to mean to mash up something.
I haven't hit it in that context. I know it more to be to squeeze up or to squish together. So like, for example, as you mentioned with the kittens, you're squishing the kittens together with a baby. When they say ginjiri baby, that means you're like squeezing up their cheeks and stuff like that. So I'm not familiar with it being mash up, the context that we know in Trinidad to mash up something, but squeeze up or that context I'm more familiar with.
Thank you, Lisha. Lisha says, I remember my mom would say, stop GAYNJAYing up the puppy, because she would just like hold on to it for really long or just really close. So thank you very much for GAYNJAY or GENJAY, as some people said. And I have to say the award for most stimulating word of the week will go to DAAGAY. And why is that? Well, you should just go to the comment section. But Vinay, what did you come up with in your research for the word DAAGAY?
Yeah, so DAAGAY is a verb that means to burn or to brand or to leave a mark. And in standard Hindi, the word is actually dagana. But we know in our Trinidad Bhojpuri or Hindustani in general, the verb takes a different form. So instead of dagana, we have DAAGAY. And so DAAGAY, as I said, is to leave a stain, a mark, and typically you do so with, a heated knife or maybe a firewood that's set aflame or a piece of paper that's on fire. And one person noted that the word dag or daga is a stain or a mark. So DAAGAY would be the act of leaving a stain or mark, or in English, as we would say, to brand something.
Yes. Now, Cindy left us a message. Cindy says, means taking the fire stick and you dage the meat in the pot. She's not the only one who made reference to food, like you dage the food or you dage the pot.
Mm-hmm. And typically in that context, what I've seen people do is they take a heated knife or they take a long piece of paper that sets a flame on one end or
Mhm.
firewood that sets a flame on one end, and they take it and they touch it on various parts of food. I've seen people do that with mango curry, for example. And so they touch it on various parts of the food while it's still in the pot cooking and it's almost done cooking. And they say that that's dagging the food. You're leaving a mark on the food, and the implication there is that you're doing it for najar or evil eye or bad eye.
Interesting. So that could also fall under purification ritual.
Yes, I believe so. In the same way that you put a tick on your forehead or anything like that to put a mark on something to prevent najar is the same way that you're dagging the food to do the same.
Okay. And those outside of Trinidad made mention of shooting the
hmm
fire of a gun.
hmm So that one I thought was very interesting too because I hadn't heard that within a Trinidadian context. I know,
Mhm.
for example, to shoot a gun in Trinidad, they might say goli mare, goli being bullet, mare meaning to shoot. So I
Mhm.
haven't come across dage being used in that context for us.
Now, Sutir, who always leaves these really good comments on our page, Sudhir says, okay, well, in Fiji, they would express dage to mean to shoot, but they also would express as branding. Chawan ke lachan dage ke hai. So you leave a mark. So you brand the cattle. You leave a mark on cattle hide for identification purposes. The second meaning for dage, he says, is to fire a gun, banduk dage. And the third, girmichi, as he said, use that term dage to put a droplet of or two of hot oil from a burning wick, and you place this on a cut or pierce the skin, and this is to prevent infections. Renuka shared a really nice memory as well. Dage, she said, my mom used to dage our foot when we got a nail piercing or something. So she would light a deer, take a piece of cloth, like a string,
Mhm.
dip that in the oil, and then hold that against the punctured area, and that would help with infection.
And noting, for example, they're using heat or the fire to essentially cauterize that wound, right? So they're branding it, they're using heat fire to brand it or touch it. And so therefore, in that sentence, it's more of a healing practice, but it still fits into that context of branding or burning.
I'd like to say thanks to Viraj as well, who asked, Dage, does that come from the word dag, meaning mark or branding? So he guessed to brand as something or someone. Yasmin says, I can remember my grand using the word when going to vote.
Mhm.
Suraj Dage now to smear, to print, or to paste. And it makes sense because when we go to vote, and those here in Trinidad would know, when we cast our ballot, you dip your finger in the ink, and that is a pretty nasty stain. So yes, thank you very much, everybody,
And I
for
was
sending us
that
that.
word I was thinking for indentured laborers when they had to sign those indentureship contracts, they would have also been putting their thumbprint on those immigration passes. So I wonder if maybe that was passed down through the years. Dagging meaning to leave a
Um,
thumbprint or
oh,
something.
yes. Great. Thank you all very, very much for that one. We move on to our Trinidad Bhojpuri phrase, Ke Ba U. And I think it's safe to say that we all scored an A with this one.
Hmm. Yeah, so K ba u literally translates to who is that? Who being K, ba being is, and u being that. Now I know that some people were commenting who's there, and for
Mhm,
who's there you would just say Keba. Who's
mhm,
there? Keba. Who is that? Keba u. And some people might know the standard Hindi phrase kaun hai. Kaun hai
mhm.
means who's there? Keba is the Bhojpuri alternative to that. And then Ke Ba'u, the Hindi alternative would be Kaun Hai Ye or Kaun Hai Wo. And some people might know that from Bollywood movies or their knowledge of Hindi.
All right. So good so far. We moved on to another Trinidad Bhojpuri word, Garahan. sometimes pronounced as Garhan, or in Hindi, Grahan, Garahan.
Yeah, so the use of Garahan, that pronunciation I find very particular to Trinidad because we know sometimes that we extend words. So, for example, instead of saying dulhin or dulhan for bride, we say dulahin. So we extend it a little bit. So we say Garahan instead of Garahan, and Garahan means an eclipse. And a man that I interview often or I talk to often, he's 89 now and he's from DAAGAY originally, and he gave me a nice story about how back in the old times there would be somebody who they'd often refer to as the now, kind of like a village helper. I know some people know that word now. And that person would come into the village at night and say, Garahan Garahan Lagalba, which means that there's an eclipse. And people would wake up, they would come out of their homes, and they would go walking throughout the night. And they would sing songs, they would sing bhajans, they would just chat, and they would walk throughout the night because it was considered inauspicious or bad luck to be sleeping during that eclipse. And oftentimes they would say that a pregnant woman is never supposed to sleep during an eclipse because she could potentially lose the baby. And I heard that from him. And then even talking to people in my own family, the elders, they recall very similar stories as well.
And is there a difference, like solar eclipse or lunar eclipse? It's just an eclipse?
I think it's generally just an eclipse. I think it might be a lunar eclipse because of the association with it being an inauspicious event.
All right. So eclipse, and it will not be a total eclipse of the heart.
A total eclipse of the heart.
Not that kind of eclipse, but okay. So we got that one, Garahan. Well done. And we moved on to our final word for the week, OUNCHAL. So, judging from the comments for OUNCHAL, we realized, okay, so you guys are really good with OUNCHAL. So we thought we'd ask, all right, so then what is OUNCHAL?
And I was really happy to test this word because it kind of shows how Hindustani is a simple language when you think about it to learn, because people know the word aunche, meaning to, take garlic skin, mustard seeds, pepper, and wrap that up and use it to aunche somebody, which is to pass all of those things in a circular motion and take off najar or barai. But the word ounchal means the actual ingredients that you're using. So in order to aunche somebody, you need to gather all the ounchal. And that's a good way to remember it. So that ounchal, as many people are commenting, could be marcha or pepper, mirchi or chili, nimak or salt, sarso ke beej, which is mustard seed, pyaj, lesun, whatever people use. But ounchal are the actual ingredients.
Right. And it's interesting to note as well that it's not just one group of prescribed ingredients or essentials. You'd realize that different, this is different for different traditions. So you'd have, we are accustomed to the onion skin and the garlic and the pepper and the salt. Some people use the broom bristles. Or broomsticks, broken pieces of broomsticks. Other people use the peacock feathers for aunchain, or the neem leaves, neem branches. Some use lime and vibhuti. So it really doesn't matter what is used, but all of those will fall under aunchal.
Yes, exactly. Aunchal is just a catch-all term for all those ingredients.
Okay, so there you go. Another fantastic week of Trinidad Bhojpuri words and phrase. Well done, everybody. So you need to just catch up with us on social media. Vinay, how can folks get in touch with you?
Yes, you can follow my page, the Cutlass Magazine, at Cutlass Magazine on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or TikTok. And if you need to reach out to me, you can always send me an email at cutlasspodcast@gmail.com.
Great. So looking forward to hearing from you guys. Until next weekly recap.
Thank you so much.